For decades, Sam Elliott ruled Hollywood with quiet confidence. No explanations, no need to prove anything. His voice, his stare, his presence said it all. But behind that calm, rugged image burned a private disappointment that never faded. It wasn't critics or box office flops that stung him. It was one man who, in Sam's eyes, betrayed everything the American West stood for. That disappointment hardened over time, and when Sam finally broke his silence, Hollywood realized there was one man he'd never forgive. Sam had always lived by a cowboy code. Never turn yourself into a spectacle. To him, real toughness didn't need noise or showmanship. You didn't act strong, you were strong. That's why what Clint Eastwood did in 2012 shook him to his core. Sam was in Texas watching the Republican National Convention when Clint dragged an empty chair on stage and started talking to it, pretending President Obama sat there. Sam froze. No laughter, no smile, just stillness. Everyone around him followed suit. To Sam, that wasn't politics. It was a betrayal. A cowboy never used the West as a stage prop, never turned grit into theater. When the internet exploded with Eastwooding memes, it wasn't the mockery that got to Sam. It was Clint's choice. He had taken the myth they once protected and turned it into a joke. And when Clint brushed it off to the Carmel pine cone, saying, "People are too sensitive," that sealed it. Sam later told a friend that Eastwood had started to look more like Dirty Harry than the man he once admired, driven by ego, convinced he was always right. To Sam, the cowboy hero he respected had vanished, replaced by someone too proud to be human. From that moment, Clint Eastwood became the face of a betrayal Sam Elliott could never forget. But Clint wasn't alone. Another name haunted Sam's sense of loyalty: Robert Redford. When Sam was starting out, he looked up to Redford. The man was Hollywood royalty, smooth, thoughtful, passionate about nature, the mind behind Sundance, a symbol of everything authentic. But with time, Sam saw cracks forming. The Sundance he once loved, wild, raw, built for new voices, had become something else entirely. By the 2000s, the festival was overflowing with luxury sponsors, paparazzi, and high-end studio films. What was once rebellion now felt like a boutique. To Sam, that change said it all. The dream Redford built to protect real artists had become another glittering piece of the Hollywood machine. During the ranch shoot, Sam reportedly told people close to him that walking through Park City no longer felt like a haven for filmmakers. It felt like strolling through an expensive shopping mall. Designer stores, rich scents in the air, Teslas parked everywhere, influencers snapping photos where dreamers once begged for a screening slot. The whole thing reeked of status. But what bothered him most wasn't just the spectacle, it was the contradiction. Redford went on TV preaching about simple living and environmental care, while his festival shimmered with excess. To Sam, that gap between the man and the message said everything. Reports soon exposed that Redford owned multiple sprawling estates, a 700-acre Santa Fe ranch, and a multi-million-dollar Napa Valley retreat. Critics began calling him a Hollywood eco-elite. But to Sam, the problem wasn't just hypocrisy. It was distance. Redford had drifted miles away from the humble values he preached. He'd become a walking symbol of moral branding, Hollywood's favorite type, a man celebrated for preaching simplicity while living in lavish comfort. In 2017, at a glitzy post-Oscar party in Beverly Hills, Sam walked into a ballroom, spotted Redford laughing with Jane Fonda, and turned right back around, without saying a word. A producer nearby said, "It didn't look like anger, it looked like heartbreak." For Sam, that was the moment the illusion shattered. Redford was no longer the grounded icon he admired, but another polished Hollywood figure preaching virtue from a mansion. If Redford left Sam disappointed, then Clint left him angry. But Kevin Costner, he stirred something deeper and messier. To Sam, Costner embodied a new kind of cowboy. too polished, too safe, too clean. That clash began long before Yellowstone. It started back in 1994, during what critics jokingly called the Western Civil War. Two Wyatt Earp movies hit theaters just months apart. Tombstone, gritty and raw, starring Kurt Russell and Sam himself, and Wyatt Earp, a $60 million studio project led and produced by Costner. Sam never trashed it publicly, but his feelings were clear. To him, Costner's version represented everything wrong with modern Hollywood. Too glossy, too staged, no dust, no soul. When the New York Times slammed Costner's movie for being too polished, Sam reportedly chuckled in a makeup trailer and said to a cinematographer, "That's a Hollywood cowboy. They ride like their jackets cost too much to wrinkle." From then on, a quiet distance grew between them. No drama, no fights, just silence. That distance turned into a canyon when Yellowstone dropped in 2018. Critics hailed Costner as the man who revived the Western. But Sam saw a commercial in cowboy clothes, a picture-perfect ranch fantasy made for people who'd never felt dirt under their boots. They turned the West into a truck ad, he told Vanity Fair. Costner fired back on Entertainment Tonight with a grin, saying, "Sam thinks he owns the West. Maybe he should buy America too." The audience laughed, but Sam didn't, and the tabloids didn't help. Costner's messy divorce, the old 2006 spa accusation, endless rumors. All of it reinforced Sam's belief that the cowboy image had become a product to sell, not a code to live by. For Sam, these cracks weren't about ego or jealousy. They were about watching something sacred fade away. The cowboy was never supposed to be glamorous or brand ready. He was meant to be grounded, scarred, and real. But Hollywood kept polishing the myth until there was nothing left but shine. Behind closed doors, Sam kept his distance from parties and photo ops. He liked real talk, early mornings, and working with people who didn't fake grit. Friends said he never badmouthed anyone outright. But when certain names came up, his voice would tighten, calm but final, like closing a door quietly. To him, the real damage wasn't one scandal or one star. It was the slow erosion of meaning. Westerns used to be about survival, loyalty, and consequence. Now they were glossy vehicles built to chase trends. That loss hit Sam harder than any headline ever could. He once told a colleague, "The West doesn't need saving. It just needs respect." If you really stopped to listen, you'd notice that belief shaped every single move Sam Elliott made. Every role he took and every role he turned down came from that same quiet conviction. While others chased trends, Sam stuck to truth. He didn't care about being everywhere, he cared about being real. That loyalty to himself made him stand out in an industry obsessed with reinvention. Some admired his stubborn calm, others just didn't get him. In interviews, when talk turned to modern westerns, Sam never attacked, he observed. He spoke about patience, authenticity, earning the dirt on your boots. But underneath his calm tone, there was a shadow of disappointment. Hollywood had moved on. Sam hadn't, and he didn't plan to. He didn't feel forgotten. He felt grounded, rooted in stories that didn't need applause to matter. That quiet refusal to bend made him both respected and intimidating. Producers learned fast. No speech could sell Sam on fake grit. If a script didn't feel real, he walked. If a character felt like a costume, he passed. That discipline made him rare in a business drowning in noise. To Sam, the cowboy wasn't an aesthetic, it was a duty. Watching others turn it into something shiny and empty left invisible scars. He didn't rant. He didn't fight. He just stepped back and let silence speak for him. And that made him more powerful than any outburst ever could. He became a living reminder of when silence meant something, when restraint was strength, and when the West didn't need to be sold to be believed. Every new Hollywood controversy only reinforced his conviction. Kevin Costner didn't carry the heritage of the West. He was cashing in on it. So when reports broke in 2023 that Costner was clashing with Yellowstone creator Taylor Sheridan over filming schedules, Sam felt nothing but confirmation. To him, that fight said everything. Real cowboys don't argue over hours. They ride until the job's done. It was never about rivalry. It was about principle. In Sam's eyes, Costner had taken the West and turned it into a logo. That was a sin that couldn't be undone. And if Costner was the face of Hollywood's polished cowboy fantasy, then Benedict Cumberbatch represented something worse, a total misunderstanding of what the West was. When The Power of the Dog swept through award season in 2022, critics called it bold and brilliant. Hollywood called it revolutionary. But when Sam watched it quietly in a small Santa Barbara theater, he didn't feel impressed. He felt hollow. To him, it was the West seen through borrowed eyes, painted by people who'd never lived its rhythm. That quiet frustration finally broke loose on Marc Maron's WTF podcast. With a tired laugh, Sam mocked the film's naked cowboys, the British accents, and what he called a version of Montana imagined by outsiders. For the first time in decades, he broke his personal code of silence, and the internet went wild. Variety called his comments a gunfight from another era, while younger fans rushed to label him out of touch. But to Sam, none of it was personal. It was about authenticity. Few people knew he had already turned down a cameo in 2019 from the film's director Jane Campion, replying simply, "I won't tell the West through someone who doesn't understand it." That choice spoke louder than any tweet ever could. When The Power of the Dog dominated the Oscars, Benedict handled the controversy with calm grace, telling reporters, "Art doesn't belong to one man." It sounded polite, but to Sam, it stung. The final blow came at a 2022 post-Oscar party, when Sam and Benedict crossed paths. They shook hands, said nothing, and the silence was thick enough to feel. No drama, no fight, just two worlds inches apart, never connecting. To Sam, Benedict wasn't a villain. He was a symbol, a sign of the new Hollywood that dissected the West until the soul was gone. The dust, the silence, the raw simplicity, all replaced by clever words and perfect lighting. Sam had spent a lifetime protecting that simplicity. But even this clash wasn't the one that hurt the most. Because before Taylor Sheridan came along, Sam thought the biggest threat to the Western came from actors who misunderstood it. But Sheridan proved the danger ran deeper. He was a writer who understood the West so well he could recreate it, and powerful enough to reshape it into something Sam barely recognized anymore. Sam Elliott's story with Taylor Sheridan didn't begin with anger. It began with hope. Back in 2016, when Hell or High Water earned 4 Oscar nominations, Sam did something rare. He mailed Sheridan a handwritten letter calling him the last man who still hears the Texas wind. That wasn't fan talk, it was real respect. But everything shifted when Yellowstone premiered in 2018. Sam tuned in, watched 15 minutes, and turned it off. To him, it wasn't the West, it was theater. A polished world built for rich audiences, filled with perfect lighting, spotless wardrobes, and ranchers who looked like catalog models. Paramount called it a revolution for Westerns. Sam saw an empire being built. When reports revealed Sheridan sold Yellowstone to Paramount for about $500 million, and even leased his own 6666 ranch back to the studio for millions, Hollywood laughed about the double-dipping cowboy. But Sam didn't laugh. To him, it was proof that the West had officially been commercialized. It hit personal when 1883 came along. The script had grit and honesty, the kind of story Sam lived for. But once the studio got involved, the edges softened, the dust got polished, and the frontier felt too shiny. In Santa Fe, Sam told a friend, "They turned blood into perfume." That line said it all. Sheridan later fired back in a magazine interview saying, "Sam forgot America has changed." That one sentence cut deeper than any insult. It told Sam he didn't belong in the world he helped shape. Their final quiet standoff came at the 2022 Critics' Choice Awards. Both men stood in the same room, but never met eyes. A photographer said it looked like two men staring at different versions of the same country. To Sam, Sheridan wasn't just a writer. He was proof that even heritage could be packaged, branded, and sold to the highest bidder. That betrayal ran deeper than any fight with an actor ever could. But among every name tied to Sam's frustration, one stood out for a colder reason: Mark Maron. It wasn't fiery like his remarks about Cumberbatch or bittersweet like his feelings for Redford. It was something sharper, the sting of being used. When Sam agreed to appear on WTF with Mark Maron in early 2022, he expected a thoughtful chat about storytelling and longevity. But as the conversation turned to the power of the dog, his frustration slipped out, raw and unfiltered. He spoke from the heart, maybe too openly. Before the episode even finished uploading, it exploded. Millions of listeners, headlines everywhere, social media dividing in real time. Instead of helping calm it down, Maron leaned into the chaos. 2 weeks later, on another episode, he joked, "The old man should retire. Hollywood doesn't need another angry cowboy." The laugh was loud, but to Sam it wasn't funny. It was betrayal dressed up as comedy. That was the moment Sam withdrew from the noise, not out of fear, but out of principle. To him, turning someone's private frustration into viral entertainment was proof that Hollywood had forgotten restraint. He didn't clap back online, didn't call for interviews. He just went silent. And in Sam's world, silence wasn't weakness, it was judgment. Friends said he grew more selective, choosing every word carefully, like a man who knew how easily truth could be twisted. In quiet moments, he told an old collaborator, "This industry doesn't listen anymore, it just reacts." To Sam, that was the real tragedy. The art of conversation was gone. Everything had to be sharp, viral, and loud. Hollywood had started to feel like enemy territory to Sam Elliott, a place built on provocation, not patience. The kind of storytelling he loved was fading fast. When producers reached out after the controversy, they noticed a change. Sam wasn't asking about budgets anymore. He asked about purpose. Why this story? Why now? Who's it really for? If the answers sounded rehearsed or market-tested, he walked away without hesitation. To Sam, the West wasn't a marketing trend or something you rebranded every few years to grab attention. It was lived experience, passed down through dust, silence, and soul. That belief made him harder to place in an industry chasing clicks instead of meaning. Even young actors who idolized him started whispering. Some said he was a relic. Others called him an anchor, the last man still standing while the tide shifted. Sam didn't argue. He didn't need to. What cut deepest wasn't the criticism. It was the distortion. Sam believed in disagreement, but he despised being twisted for views. Watching serious ideas turned into sound bites left him colder than any bad review ever could. In private, he confessed that Hollywood didn't scare him anymore. It disappointed him. The applause sounded hollow, the praise felt strategic, and the outrage seemed rehearsed. None of it carried real weight anymore. He once told a friend, "The cowboy was never meant to be explained. You either feel it or you don't." But Hollywood kept trying to explain, analyze, and sanitize it until nothing real was left. Big offers still came in, but Sam said no more than he said yes. If a script treated the West like a prop or made authenticity feel staged, he stepped away, quietly but firmly. To him, integrity wasn't about shouting. It was about what you refused to do. While Hollywood sped forward, louder, flashier, emptier, Sam stayed still, grounded in his code. He didn't see himself as left behind. He saw himself standing guard over something sacred that didn't need applause or reinvention. But that peace didn't last. After his tense moment on Mark Maron's podcast, things got ugly fast. The clip spread everywhere. Young audiences laughed, older fans felt betrayed. But Sam didn't laugh, and he never forgot. To him, something sacred had been violated, an unwritten rule broken. You don't turn a guest's vulnerability into content. Later, he told a friend back in Texas, "I spoke from the heart. He spoke for attention." That line said everything. 3 months later, the wound deepened when Maron appeared on Real Time with Bill Maher and doubled down, calling Sam a man afraid of change. The audience howled with laughter. Sam watched from home, silent. No rage, no defense, just quiet understanding. He finally said, "Some people talk every day so they can feel real. I never had that problem." It wasn't bitter. It was clear. For the first time, Sam didn't feel misunderstood. He felt used. Maron's career thrived on the same storm that left Sam bruised and drained. His silence afterward wasn't restraint. It was pain. Of all the men tied to Sam's disappointment, Marc Maron stood apart. He wasn't the most powerful or the most famous, but he was the only one who turned Sam's honesty into entertainment. And that betrayal cut the deepest of all. Sam Elliott's story isn't just about rivalries or grudges. It's about a man watching the world he loved morph into something he barely recognized. From Hollywood politics to commercialized westerns, every betrayal left a scar. And somewhere in that long list of names, one man left a wound that never really healed. Now it's your turn. Who do you think hurt Sam Elliott the most and why? Drop your thoughts below. Hit that like button if this story hit you, and don't forget to subscribe for more untold Hollywood truths and behind-the-scenes revelations.